Did you know that 30 million women are impacted by weakened or thinning hair? If you're among them, know that you're not alone and that there is a solution that you can trust to deliver results. Millions of Americans experience thinning hair. It's more than common, it's actually normal, but it's not openly talked about, especially among us women. Going through it can feel lonely and frustrating, but it's time to change that conversation and join the thousands of women who are already standing up for their strands with Nutrafol. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement, clinically shown to improve your hair growth, thickness, and visible scalp coverage. Nutrafol supports healthy hair growth from within by targeting the 5 root causes of thinning: stress, hormones, environment, nutrition, and metabolism through a whole body health. Nutrafol has 3 unique formulas to support women through all stages of life, including postpartum and menopause. Each formula is physician formulated using natural, drug-free, medical-grade ingredients in consistently effective dosages so you get the most reliable results. In a clinical study, 86% of women reported improved hair growth after 6 months. Over 3,000 top doctors and stylists have recommended Nutrafol as an effective and high-quality solution for healthier hair. You can grow thicker, healthier hair and support our show by going to Nutrafol.com and entering the promo code FRAUD to save $15 off your first month's subscription. This is their best offer anywhere, and it's only available to U.S. customers for a limited time. Plus, free shipping on every order. Get $15 off at Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code FRAUD. Hi.
Hello, how are you?
I'm good. Hello, everyone. We decided to record a little bit of an update for you guys on the Idaho College Murders. The reason why we're doing this is because there was sort of a big update after we had the guy arrested last week, and then the probable cause affidavit came out once he got extradited back to Idaho. And that gave us a lot of details. It's the probable cause. It's the affidavit done by the police to get a arrest warrant from the judge. And so it lays out their case and the details and the evidence that they have about why they want to arrest this guy. And then the judge approves the warrant, which they then executed and arrested him and brought him back. So because of all that, we wanted to do a quick update on this. And this is sort of a what we know now, like where are we now? What do we know? What we know so far. And we're recording this on Friday, January 6th, 2023. And I compiled information from multiple different sources. So trustworthy sources, not just like random rumors on TikTok. But a couple reputable sources, Washington Post, Vox, things like that. So what we're talking about is the I'm scrolling on my notes here. Sorry. I scroll up. It's a lot of notes. Okay, so it was on sometime after midnight on November 13th of 2022 for University of Idaho students, Xana Kernodle, Ethan Chapin, Madison Mogen, and Kaylee Goncalves were all viciously attacked while sleeping in an off-campus townhouse. As the criminal charges would later reflect, that they were all stabbed and murdered with premeditation, with malice and forethought. Basically, first-degree murder, stabbed. 7 weeks after that, they arrested this guy. And so we're going to kind of go through what happened in all of that. So what do you think? We should start with the murders?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the details of the murders. So you've got these 4 students. They all live together. They're all really good friends. I think Xana and Ethan were a couple, and then Madison and Kaylee were like best friends. They did everything since like 6th grade, lived together, went to school together, and then unfortunately then also died side by side. So they lived in this house. It's like a 3-story house. And they had gone out to a party. It was like a normal Saturday night for them. They're all involved in the Greek system, so they'd gone to a fraternity party. Then they went out to the other girls went out to a bar. And then they hung out at a food truck. And then by 2 a.m., everyone had gathered back at the house where they lived with 2 of them had lived with 2 other roommates. A 3-story house, accessible primarily by a secure door with a coded entry that's on the bottom floor, as well as a sliding glass door on the main level, which is like the 2nd level. The lower entry was locked, but the sliding glass door might have been like accessible. So they know then at 4 a.m., Kernodle ordered Jack in the Box. At 4:12 a.m., she was on the phone surfing TikTok. Sometime in the next few minutes after that, the attack began. She tried to fight off her attacker, but by 4:25, both she and her boyfriend would be dead. So the killer did the attacking on the 2nd and 3rd floors of the house, entering each of the victims' rooms for separate attacks. The housemates that were on the lowest floor, those he left alive. And one of them, we found out from this probable cause affidavit, actually saw him. But we'll get into that in a minute. He had used what's called a K-bar knife. It's a style used in the Marine Corps, but there's no evidence he was ever in the Marine Corps. So just one of those things. There was nearby surveillance footage that captured audio of the attacks around 4:17, including like just what they call distress sounds and barking from the dog. No screaming though. As the one roommate who witnessed this also said, told police that she heard noises and crying, but didn't understand what she was hearing. We'll get a little bit more into that. So they haven't released the 911 call, but we know that at 11:58 a.m., there was a 911 call from the roommate's phone, and apparently multiple people were speaking to the dispatcher. They got there, they found that there was, the 4 murders. And then we all heard, now, I don't know what you remember from the news, Lexi, about this or whatever, but I remember there was a lot of confusion about, okay, there's these people that were dead, but there's no ongoing threat to the community, but they won't release anything else. Like, what, if you have a suspect, but is there a threat or is there not a threat?
Yeah, I feel like it was very kind of jumbled. I never really understood what they were trying to say.
Right. And I think that was a problem. People were like, oh, they're bumbling idiots, blah, 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 blah. Well, what we know now from the probable cause affidavit is that they were actually doing a lot, and they were keeping it all inside for a reason. So this is what we know from what what was released in the affidavit. Police used DNA to identify the suspect. Now, police had previously said that they had tied him to the killings using DNA they found at the scene, but they hadn't disclosed what they found or anything about it. They just told us it was DNA. Now we're starting to go, oh, okay, maybe they do know what they're doing. Now we know what it was they discovered. It was DNA that was found on a button snap of the empty knife sheath. And that's how they knew it was a K-bar, because the sheath was tan and leather with the K-bar knives brand logo and the Marine Corps insignia on it. And that was on the sheath. So on the button on that button snap thing, they found DNA. An Idaho State lab had tested the DNA found on the sheath against a sample that Kohberger's father of his father's DNA obtained by investigators from the family's home 3 days before he was arrested. So the analysis there indicated a father-child match between the DNA samples. That's the genetic genealogy aspect of this. Authorities also said that they tracked his car movements and cell phone to his connection in the crime. Like, why were they following him? Did you know that 30 million women are impacted by weakened or thinning hair? If you're among them, know that you're not alone and that there is a solution that you can trust to deliver results. Millions of Americans experience thinning hair. It's more than common, it's actually normal, but it's not openly talked about, especially among us women. Going through it can feel lonely and frustrating, but it's time to change that conversation and join the thousands of women who are already standing up for their strands with Nutrafol. Nutrafol is the #1 dermatologist recommended hair growth supplement, clinically shown to improve your hair growth, thickness, and visible scalp coverage. Nutrafol supports healthy hair growth from within by targeting the 5 root causes of thinning: stress, hormones, environment, nutrition, and metabolism through a whole body health. Nutrafol has 3 unique formulas to support women through all stages of life, including postpartum and menopause. Each formula is physician formulated using natural, drug-free, medical-grade ingredients in consistently effective dosages so you get the most reliable results. In a clinical study, 86% of women reported improved hair growth after 6 months. Over 3,000 top doctors and stylists have recommended Nutrafol as an effective and high-quality solution for healthier hair. You can grow thicker, healthier hair and support our show by going to Nutrafol.com and entering the promo code FRAUD to save $15 off your first month's subscription. This is their best offer anywhere, and it's only available to U.S. customers for a limited time. Plus, free shipping on every order. Get $15 off at Nutrafol.com, spelled Nutrafol.com, promo code FRAUD. We have one of the victims was awake during the attack. They say that the 4 victims and their 2 surviving roommates were all home and in their rooms by 4 a.m. They had previously said that the victims were asleep at the time of the attack, but the affidavit showed that at least Kernodle was awake at 4 a.m. when she received the DoorDash delivery of Jack in the Box. Minutes later, her phone records show that she was on TikTok, indicating that she was awake at around the time the killer likely entered the house. Same time, the downstairs roommate heard noises from Goncalves' room and thought that she was playing with her dog. She then thought she heard she say someone was in the house. A few minutes later, she heard crying coming from Kernodle's room. The housemate, whom investigators did not name, but they called her DM, then heard a man say something to the effect of, "It's okay, I'm going to help you." 4:17 a.m., a security camera from a neighboring home picked up distorted audio of what sounded like a whimper and a loud thud. A dog can also be heard barking. The same roommate, DM, told investigators that she looked outside of her room after she heard the crying and she saw a man clad in black clothing and a mask walking towards her. She said he was 5'10" or taller, athletically built with bushy eyebrows, which investigators allege matched Kohberger's physical attributes. She told police she didn't recognize the masked man. She froze as he walked past her toward a back door, and then she locked herself in the room. The investigators say that they believe that she saw the killer leaving the house and that their investigation uncovered a shoe print that indicated he left on the path that had been described by DM. The housemate did not call 911 until just before noon, after they woke up and found one of the victims, the police said. They did not provide any more details of the investigators' interviews with the housemates. That housemate has also been said to have said that she was like in frozen shock. She was like, whatever, like in shock, I guess. I mean, I don't know.
Yeah.
So then another thing is that they say that the attack appears to have been planned. And these are like 5 things that we learned from the affidavit taken from a Washington Post article. The attack appears to have been planned. They said Kohberger was near the victim's home at least 12 times between June and the day the 4 students were killed. They said that the cell phone records showed that. Also that it showed on the day of the killings, his phone left his residence in Pullman, Washington, which is just across the border, which is just 6 miles from Moscow, which is where this occurred, Moscow, Idaho, at 2:47 a.m. So he leaves his house at 2:47 a.m. And then the phone stopped reporting to the network, which is what happens when a phone is turned off or put in airplane mode or has no service. As we see on lots of crime shows.
Yeah.
Suspects tend to turn them off thinking, oh, they won't be able to track me. Well,
this guy was a genius, right? He thought he was just
we're going to talk about all that. We're going to analyze some of this when we get through it. They also said a white Hyundai Elantra matching Kohberger's car was seen passing the victim's house 4 times between 3:29 a.m. and 4:04 a.m. 4 times in a half hour right before the killings, on the night of the killings. Surveillance footage showed this, and that at 4:20 a.m., 16 minutes after arriving at the house, that same car was seen speeding away from the street. At 4:48, the phone began receiving service again, reporting to the network from a highway near Moscow, traveling towards Pullman, where he lives. He was working. What do we know about him? He was working, and he was going to school in his first semester at Washington State University. He had completed a master's program at DeSales University in Pennsylvania in June. And the cell phone records also indicate that his repeated trips to Moscow began in June, and the murder happened in November. So then they also said that Kohberger wanted to work at the police department, that he's got this master's degree in criminal justice, enrolled to get his PhD in criminal justice at Washington, and applied in the fall for an internship to the police department in Pullman. He said that he wanted to, quote, help rural police collect and analyze data, which is creepy.
Yeah, super creepy.
And then they also found the Reddit post from him asking people to participate in a survey in where he was seeking information on how to understand emotions and psychological traits influencing decision-making when committing a crime.
Mm-hmm.
That's been going around Reddit, and that has been nuts, right? Because he was asking, like, what were you thinking in the moments before, and what were you so
which is interesting, because as a PhD student, that's not the proper a Reddit forum is not the proper type of research.
Does that fall under the right protocol for research?
No.
Yeah, I'm thinking no, really. It doesn't, right?
No, it does not. I think he was probably getting excited, like reading what the responses were, and just like fueling his just psychotic behavior. Ugh.
Okay, so how did the police get turned on to Kohberger to begin with? The first came from the surveillance footage, right? So they were looking at, as we have discussed in our Unsolved Mysteries episode that's also out this week. Why wasn't there any surveillance footage of that situation? Well, here there was, right?
Yeah.
So they captured this white sedan, quote, repeatedly circling the neighborhood between 3:20 a.m. and 4:20 a.m. And they tracked down the car to Pullman, Washington, about 10 miles away. Meanwhile, an FBI expert was able to identify the make and model and even narrow down the year range of the car. So they found it was a 2014 to 2016 white Hyundai Elantra. With that, they were able to quickly track down an owner who attended Washington State University, lived near the last place the car had been seen on the surveillance, which was Kohberger. So then they had his driver's license photo, which they said looked like the description that they were given, including the quote bushy eyebrows. And then of course, that's when they started tracking his cell phone records. They have this picture now. And so at this point, they've got all of this strong circumstantial evidence tying him to and his white car to the crime, right? So they have the surveillance cameras. They know it's him. They're driving around. But what was like the smoking gun in this case is the DNA that was found on the empty knife sheath that had a trace that when they ran the DNA, it came back with a trace of just said unknown male. But then since they suspected him, they were able to, they used a procedure called family genealogy, genetic genealogy, something like that. Excuse me, is what it is generally what it's called. So what they did is they went to his father. They had surveillance at his father's house. They got some trash from his house outside, and then they were able to get his DNA. Through that's where they use the genetic genealogy. So what it is, it's like a genetic DNA matching, and where they build out a potential like family tree for a suspect or like an unidentified missing person. This was used, the Golden State Killer. That's how they found out who he was. It's been used in a lot of cases recently, and it's been I'm fascinated watching
it's
it
amazing
work. Every time I see it, it just, oh my God.
Which is like, I'm a big conspiracy theory, person, but I was very hesitant to submit my DNA to Ancestry.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy I did, but when you do that, just know like your DNA is there, and not that you would commit a crime, but you can be connected to any.
Yeah, I'm going to talk. Yeah, there's a little. Yeah. It's pretty interesting right now. There's only 2 genealogy websites that allow law enforcement to use DNA from their users. Like all the other ones don't allow it. Because there were laws and things.
Right, protection.
So what happens is they build out they take the DNA from the known male, which was here in this case his father, and they build out this potential family tree, whatever. Then they use clues and other like regular detective work. They follow the family tree and trace which member is the most likely to match. The use of it apparently is controversial. I didn't know it was controversial, but my research for this it is. There are only 2, and I guess it's probably for the privacy reasons, only 2 genealogy websites that are called GEDmatch and Family Tree DNA allow law enforcement to use DNA from their users. And both are opt-in, meaning that the user has to give explicit consent for the use. Though GEDmatch is like encourages people, and they're like, come on, and there's ways of like, if I think mine's on like 23andMe or Ancestry. I don't remember which one it's on, but it's Ancestry. Mine's up in Ancestry. I think if you've submitted to one of those, there's somewhere on GEDmatch that you can opt in to do it. I'm not entirely sure. I'll try to have an updated episode on a future episode. Updated information on a future episode. Thank you. So the GEDmatch talks about how their genetic DNA matching is assisted in closing over 500 cold cases. And it's used to solve crime. So, there's all these like, algorithms and things or whatever. So police were able to match the DNA on the knife sheath with DNA from Kohberger's father gathered at the trash. And when that match was definitive, excluding 99.9% of the population from being the father of the suspect. Does that make sense? They were able to connect it that way. Meanwhile, While we're all watching the news going, what the hell is happening? Kohberger and his dad took a road trip from Washington to Pennsylvania. License plate readers across the country mapped him, traveling from state to state. On December 15th, they were stopped twice by Indiana patrol officers in a very short time span for tailgating.
Now, were they following them just for a reason to pull them over?
What has come out, and I've seen this in multiple sources, so I think this is accurate versus some of the other rumors that are like, oh, a source told me, but I've seen this reported in multiple places. The FBI asked the Indiana police to pull them over because they wanted body cam footage of him to see if he had defensive wounds on his hands and arms. Which shocker he did.
Right.
Now, like I said, at first I was hearing that piece of information. The FBI asked them to pull him over. First it was like, oh, one source, and then it was called back. It was backpedaled, and then I saw it on another source. So I don't know 100%. I would not say 100% that the FBI has confirmed that or anything. I'm not totally sold 100% on that, but it would make sense because everything else it tracks with the sort of what's the word I'm looking for? The way that the very precise, measured nature of the way that they've been, they clearly were doing their investigation in this case. So when they suspected it was him, that they started surveilling his house. They started surveilling the car on the way back. They caught on the surveillance him scrubbing his car, wearing gloves, scrubbing his car like head to toe, foot to like tops to tails, like everything. Like they were able to witness it during the surveillance, is what I saw earlier on CNN.
Why was he washing his car? Like, what would that have mattered if he was just driving around outside of the house?
Probably no. I mean, if he got back in that car after he murdered them,
oh right,
then there would be evidence from that was on him that got into his car. And if he's scrubbing,
I imagine him like washing his car outside. I was like, wait a second. That's why I was like, the inside. Okay,
you're like, why would it matter? What if it rains? No, like the inside. I suspect.
Complete sense. It's late. Yes.
So there's still a lot that we don't know. There's a lot that we don't know. There's my document. Okay. Goncalves' father has been speaking a lot to the media. And at first he was like, what's going on too? Like, but then he started to understand, I think there's more out there. And then he says that the coroner told him the following information, and I don't know if this is accurate or not, right? I don't know where this came from. This is what he says. I mean, I don't have any reason to doubt him, but I also don't have any reason to trust that this is completely accurate. I want to see what the coroner said. It's like hearsay through here. But he says that the coroner told him that his daughter had more wounds than the others, and therefore was maybe the target of the situation. And her stab wounds appeared like torn rather than stabbed. Like if it went in and was torn.
Very like aggressive.
Yeah, but what the coroner said was that meant she would also bleed out fast and would have died very quickly and not like have a long drawn out death. Right.
Huh.
So but that's what that's not, we haven't heard that from the coroner. There's so much we don't know. We don't know what the witnesses exactly heard and saw. They haven't released the 911 calls. They haven't released so much information. But that is what we do know so far. We also, we know he was a criminology student. We think that's my personal belief is that if he is this guy, right? Like it wasn't the being a criminology student made him want to murder. It was that he was attracted to the criminology field because he has the psychotic murder
Yes.
tendencies. I also think that, he has said through his Pennsylvania public defender that he's confident he will be exonerated, which, given what we've now seen, tells me like, oh, he thinks that he's smarter than everyone. He thinks he knows everything, like a narcissist, like a narcissistic trait. I'm not saying he's a narcissist. I'm saying it's a narcissistic trait that you think you're the smartest guy in the room.
Yeah.
Right. So he probably thought he didn't leave any DNA and this and that. And then, I mean, but his phone was tracking his car and there's surveillance. Like, is he that dumb?
Yeah, absolutely. And
he just thinks he's that dumb, but thinks he's smarter than other people.
Do you think that's why he has a public defendant? Because he's like, I don't need to spend the money on a private attorney because
well, no, I mean, I think the public defender was assigned to him
right away.
Right away. Yeah, because the FBI did a raid on their house and took him in, I think, for his first appearance there. I mean, it's not uncommon at all to have a public defender for your first appearance. Sense. And it's at that point that the judge can ask you, can you afford a lawyer? This is, you could be facing possible misdemeanor, or what, felony or whatever, can you afford a lawyer? No. Yes.
Now, is the death penalty in Idaho?
They do have the death penalty in Idaho. Yes. So that is a decision that prosecutors will have to make is, are they going to seek the death penalty on this? I don't know what, every state that has that carries the death penalty has a specific set of words that they use for, like special circumstances type of thing.
I wonder, he's so arrogant and narcissistic in my mind that I wonder if he would even take a plea deal because he thinks he could get off. Like, you know what I mean? Like if they offered him prison sentence instead of going after the death penalty.
Well, that's often I've seen it used. They use that like in the Chris Watts case, who murdered his pregnant wife and 2 daughters, where Chris Watts murdered. They dropped the death penalty in exchange for him giving all the, confessing to all the information. They would give him life versus, dropping the death penalty. We've seen that used tons of cases. It's absolutely a bargaining tool. And they haven't released any information about like that stuff, that next step yet. But they have said, because they do have the death penalty in Idaho. So that is a decision that's going to have to be made. I suspect we're going to hear more information about that as the case moves along. Now that he has made his first appearance in an Idaho courtroom, now that whole official process can start here. One thing I want to comment on too is he did not fight extradition. They arrested him in Pennsylvania and he did not fight the extradition to Idaho. And what is suspected, the reason why is because it wouldn't be until he was in Idaho in that system where they could unseal the arrest warrant and he could see what evidence they had against him. While he was in Pennsylvania, he would not have access to that information. And him being there's any number of reasons. Yeah, so any number of reasons why obviously he's going to want that information. But I suspect, given that this guy seems like he thinks he's smarter than everybody else, whatever, he wants to know what they know. Yeah. And of course, any defense attorney is going to want to know that, whatever. So, the reason, for him actually doing that to me isn't any big deal. Doesn't really say anything to me about the nature or the quality of the case or what he knows or doesn't know. Remember, it's all alleged at this point. He's innocent until proven guilty, all of that. And I personally am not ascribing any additional weight to the fact that he waived extradition and wanted to know that information. I don't practice criminal defense law, but I would want that information because in criminal defense and in criminal law, the burden is on the prosecutor to prove their case. And like, you don't have to prove that your client is innocent. You have to show that there's reasonable doubt that the prosecution's case is what it is. So it would be a strategy to just refute what they have versus you're not presenting a strategy of presenting the entire case per your client. You might be giving up information you don't need to give up necessarily.
In a world where everyone was forced to leave the comfort of their homes to get their favorite drinks, a hero emerged. Its name was Drizzly, the #1 app for alcohol delivery, and it allowed everyone to compare prices on the biggest selection of beer, wine, and spirits, and get them delivered in under 60 minutes, or scheduled up to 2 weeks in advance. No hassle, no headache, no plot holes. But that's not all. Drizzly even makes it easy to send the gift of alcohol to your friends and family, because every occasion needs a hero, and that hero is you. So if you want to spend more time streaming and take destiny into your own hands, download the Drizzly app or go to drizzly.com. That's DRIZLY.com today. Dun dun dun.
The Venture X card from Capital One gives you premium travel benefits, perfect for seeing Taylor Swift The Eras Tour. Presented by Capital One. Ooh, I do love her. Earn 5 times miles on flights and 10 times miles on hotels through Capital One Travel.
Enjoy your stay in Suite 13.
Whoa, 13? That's Taylor's lucky number. The Venture X card from Capital One. What's in your wallet?
Terms apply. See CapitalOne.com for details.
Well, my question is, you've been doing all this research. What have you read anything about what the motive would be, besides I've heard rumors that he just wanted to kill? I have.
There's been a speculation, but there is not a ton of talk about it. I think there's going to be more now that people will be able to analyze the arrest affidavit more. They're getting more and more information on him and his past and how he grew up. And as the FBI profiler, the star FBI profilers that we see, I can't wait to hear Jim Clemente's take on this, and Laura Richards. They, along with Lisa Zambetti, do a podcast called Real Crime Profile. Again, not an ad. I just love them. He's a former prosecutor and a former FBI profiler, and so is Laura Richards. You will see her on some of the on TV true crime stuff. She's British. She's a former criminal profiler too. So I would love to see what these kinds of people have to say about him, given what they know about him, and there's not a lot of information out there where they can build victimology from the victims out to find it. But I think that there's a lot of information there with him, that they could start putting profile together about, maybe that would speculate on his motive. Perhaps we're going to have more forthcoming information that will talk about that. But there is not a lot out there right now of any evidence that would suggest what it is. But again, here's another thing. You don't need to prove motive. Prosecutors do not need to prove motive. That's not an element of the crime that they have to prove. So, it helps. A lot of juries like it.
Right. And if I'm sitting on a jury and I'm like,
it helps. It helps tell the story. It'll help make, it helps connect the dots. Sure. But it is not technically an element of the crime. Yeah. And just like, a defense on the defense side, you have to get the reasonable doubt that the prosecution's case is what it is. But strategically, the defense attorney may choose to tell the entire story, or however they want to present their defense. There's, that's a strategic decision. Same thing with the prosecution, about motive. When you have evidence, motive, are you going to speculate? Is it theory? If you're just speculating, is that going to hurt rest of your case because you don't want to dilute your authenticity. I don't know. I don't do criminal law. I'm not a prosecutor,
Yeah.
So I don't know what kinds of considerations necessarily would go into that, but I just based on, being a true crime lover, aficionado, researcher, obsession, whatever you want to call it. I just, there's lots of different reasons and lots of different ways you can present the story. So, given what we have, it's like there was nothing. And then now just this little bit of information gives us so much more of a picture that and with all the information they still haven't released, I just can imagine the wealth, like the world of evidence that's going to be at this thing. But if he pleads out, there won't be a trial. So
I don't know.
I can see the Dateline episode on this already, though.
Absolutely. And like we were talking about, just his level of arrogance. And he wasn't stupid. I mean, obviously he's intellectually intelligent. He has his master's degree.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes with these smart people, they don't have common sense, or he's just narcissistic personality disorder.
Yeah. Absolutely. I can't wait for them to start. Well, when people who have known him start to come out and talk to the police about what's he like, people who went to school with him, his professors, things like that, like all that's going to start to come out of the woodwork, right? And
my guess is he was more of a loner type. It's just my theory.
See, the part of me is going to be like, this is so sensationalized, all these random people crawling out of the woodwork to get their 15 seconds of fame. I knew this guy, I shared a cab with him once on the way back, and he said, oh, I'm gonna go kill these people. I'm not encouraging that, and I don't like that kind of thing, but I would be interested to see what comes out from like maybe his criminology professors, and how all that was. So anyway.
Yeah.
One thing I've been seeing out there too is people are like, why did it take her so long to call 911? Wouldn't it be weird? Like you come out of your room at 4 o'clock in the morning and there's this guy in black wearing a mask. Like, wouldn't you call the police right away? Think back to when you were in college, if you did go to college, and if you didn't, try to just imagine it. Like this is a house with 6 people in it, right?
Yeah.
That live there. Like some random dude walking around wearing dark clothes. And what kind of mask was he wearing? We don't know. Right. We don't know. It doesn't specify what kind of mask he's wearing. It could be like a COVID N95 mask. It could be, Halloween. Who knows what kind of mask it was? It was also 4:30 in the morning. She was eating Drunchies from Jack in the Box at 4:20. My
question is, why did he leave her alone and leave? Did he want somebody to be alive?
Well, he left the 2 people alive.
Yeah.
So what targeted, like he went into these specific rooms and killed these people. Was it, we don't know. That's the stuff that we don't know, how did he know these people? We don't know any of that. We don't know how he was connected to them. We don't know why he'd been driving by. We don't know anything.
And if it was a rage killing, if maybe one of the girls or guys did something to him, I feel like he would emotionally kill quick, right? Not wait months and stalk somebody. If you're enraged,
I'd see one of those I got rejected on a dating app, so I'm gonna go kill her type of guys.
Yeah, I don't know. Rejection. That was my guess too. Maybe he was rejected by somebody.
This is what women have to worry about. This is what women have to worry about. You guys, when we reject somebody, this is what we worry about.
It's crazy.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's a crazy world out there.
Yeah. And I mean, we haven't heard hardly, what they've released about what the roommates have said has been very, very minimal. And it was just enough to connect. There's just enough of their statements about him, about why they were connecting him, because the probable cause affidavit is why they have a reason to arrest this particular guy. So they were connecting the stuff that was in there, or that they released in there, was connected to his connection to the house, like things like that. But the other things about maybe how he may have known them, had he encountered them previously, had he been rejected, did he go on a date with one of them? Did they have classes? Did they run into each other at a bar? Is it somebody like maybe he knew who they were, but they didn't know who he was because he was that quiet loner, creepy guy in the corner at the bar, right? They haven't released any of that kind of information, which obviously they're going to, talking to the roommates, they're going to get some information about they did or didn't know this guy ahead of time. And none of that's been released. So.
And like, does it scare you? We talked about this a little bit. Your son is in college and Kaya's a long way from going to college, but I just like the mother instinct in me is just absolutely terrified to think that my child could be going away to school, like being a successful student and doing whatever, all these things. And then just to be viciously murdered in the middle of the night or morning, early morning, whatever. Like, it's just terrifying. It's terrifying to me. And it's like, you want to protect yourself, but you're talking about college kids. Okay. So maybe they did leave the door open, unlocked or whatever, or, it's just, it scares me. It scares me. And those poor families and the fact that one person murdered 4 people, was able to murder 4 people in a house where there was a lot of people living there
with a knife.
Yes, that's ballsy. Like that's like going into a house like that.
That many people and just
yeah, that's crazy. It's just so sad.
Yeah. So that's where we're at now. There's a lot of speculation now, obviously, based on what we do know. There will continue to be more speculation. At this point, we'll just continue to await official information, and we'll update as we, as it happens, I guess. Yeah. That's where we're at now. What happens now is normal court process, I guess, takes place, and I'm not sure what the timing of all that is, but he just got back to Idaho, made his first court appearance, and so I'm sure we will be hearing about the next ones in the next step soon. So that is where we have now. That is what we know as of January 6th, 2023. And that's it. That's all we got. Thanks for listening.
It's Macy's one-day sale now with great deals of the day to kick off the new year. Like $59.99 cashmere, 40% off designer booties and handbags show love. And spruce up your bedroom with comforter sets, 55 to 65% off. Plus, get contact-free curbside pickup or pickup in store. Now at Macy's one-day sale. Details at macys.com/pickup. Savings off sale and clearance prices. Exclusions apply.
With the Kroger Plus card, it's easy to get lower than low prices for the win. Earn fuel points on every purchase and save up to $1 a gallon at the pump. The Kroger Plus card. All you do is win. Big, big savings. Sign up now at Kroger.com and start saving. Kroger, fresh for everyone. Savings may vary by state. Fuel restrictions apply.
Save big on your favorites with the Buy 5 or More, Save $1 each sale. Simply buy 5 or more participating items and save $1 each with your card. Kroger, fresh for everyone.